So which engine is the most fuel efficient? And the engines here in question are a supercharged engine, a turbocharged engine, and a naturally aspirated engine. So first of all, most of the cars that are known for having very good fuel economy, like the Toyota Corolla and the rest, are 99% of the time made with naturally aspirated engines in them. You hardly see one coming from the factory with a turbocharged or even a supercharged engine. But even though that is the case, in a general situation, turbocharged engines are actually more fuel efficient than both naturally aspirated engines and supercharged engines. Yes, I know, when you look at this from a glance, naturally aspirated engines like the ones you find in all these smaller cars on the road actually consume a whole less fuel. But if you compare a turbocharged engine to a naturally aspirated engine at a ratio of fuel consumption to performance, you realize that the turbocharged engine will have a better fuel economy than the naturally aspirated one. And here's what I mean by saying that. So for example, you have a 4-cylinder engine that at its stock status, it is producing about 150 horsepower. So you get a turbocharger and connect it to the engine, and it's now producing about 300 horsepower. But if you want to match that 300 horsepower in the form of a naturally aspirated engine, you are probably going to be needing something like a V6. And we all know that V6 engines have 6 cylinders compared to the 4-cylinder, meaning that the V6 is going to be consuming more fuel. Yes, we added a turbocharger to the 4-cylinder, so obviously the 4-cylinder is also going to be consuming more fuel than usual. But comparing that to what the V6 will need, the difference will be a lot wider. So the reason why a turbocharged engine will be able to give you a good fuel economy at the same time providing your car with more power is because of the fact that a turbocharger kind of works like a waste recycler, because it basically runs off the waste from the engine, which is the exhaust gases. It uses the forces that comes with the exhaust gases to compress air and force it into the cylinders. So the engine doesn't really need to do any special or extra work in order for the turbocharger to run. But on the other hand, a supercharger is the opposite of that, because it is driven by the engine itself, meaning that the fuel economy or the fuel consumption is going to be very high. So most of the times when manufacturers want to give a car more horsepower at the same time giving it a good fuel economy, that's when they bring in turbochargers. That's why you'll be able to see that some vehicles are coming with turbochargers, like most of these SUVs, even though they are not meant for sporting activities, but they still have turbochargers. So here's the order in fuel consumption. We'll be starting from the highest to the lowest. So starting from the first one, we have the superchargers. They have, or the supercharged engines, they have the highest fuel consumption of the three. The next one is the natural aspirated engine, and the last one will be the turbocharged engine. Anyway, I hope you learned something, and I'll see you guys in the next one.